Hello, everybody. Oh, Allison, you're not in here yet. Hold on a second. Let me put you in here. Wait a second, Allison. You just shh. My God. Okay. It's just wait. It's just it hasn't populated your screen yet. It's going to. What's going on with your camera? There you are. Okay. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Honey Badger Radio. My name is Brian. I'm here with Allison, and this is Maintaining Frame number 158. How the left is appealing to men in the age of the orange man. All right, so it looks like we're live and good to go. So I guess there's like a bunch of things we're gonna be reacting to.
Yeah, I got a whole bunch I got a whole bunch of nuts in my bag. I was gonna call it my nut bag, but then I was like, something about that doesn't sound right.
My nut
so
sack.
It's my bag of nuts. I've gathered a whole bunch so we can look at them until we run out of time. But it's essentially the Democratic response to losing the election, and in part losing the election because
they lost men.
They lost men, like, period. Well, who would have thought? Several decades of insulting what was once your core base would eventually catch up on you. But here we are. And I thought it would be funny to look at how they have interpreted the situation and how they've responded to it and how they're going, because I know that you guys covered this like last week. But, there's been more happenings in the realm of Democrats attempting to appeal to men. And they are absolutely hilarious.
Yeah.
As you can imagine. But just to set the tone, why don't we we'll listen to their spokesperson. I don't know if she identifies as she. I'm pretty sure she doesn't identify as
Olivia Giuliani.
Yeah, Olivia Giuliani. Or
yeah, Giuliana. The official man whisperer.
Yeah, official man whisperer for the Democratic Party. I've actually looked at her Twitter. It's a bold strategy.
Yeah.
See if it plays off for them in like the midterms. Let's see if they can get a little bit closer to scoring more political clout, shall we say. But yeah, before we do that, I will do the things. Once again, our monthly fundraiser is open. So if you want to continue to hear our lovely dulcet tones, please go to feedthebadger.com/support and help us out by throwing a few shekels in the hat. We are basically demonetized everywhere. So the only reason why we can continue to bring you this content is because you guys continue to support us in doing so. It's not that we would not be doing it, but we certainly wouldn't be doing it 6 days a week plus shorts. Like a nice stream of shorts to attempt to break through the embargo on this content. So once again, feedthebadger.com/support. We are the We Blame Women party. Can I go just do that? And I will continue to blame women until we are as comfortable blaming women as we are blaming men. And I think that ultimately will lend to some progress, shall we say. So anyway, feedthebadger.com/support. for holding women accountable and maybe laying off the blame of men, which seems to be the accelerator that's heading us towards the cliff. And if you want to send a message, if you can't stand my hat, that's the new thing that Special Chat is latched onto, is how marginal my hat is. You can do so at feedthebadger.com/justthetip. Very best way to send us a message, because we know where it goes. With YouTube, you never know where it goes, and sometimes it never shows up where you intend it to. So feedthebadger.com/justthetip. We get the full benefit of whatever funds you send, and you get the benefit of sending your comment not through YouTube's comment enhancement system. All right. Oh, and if you want to join us in our community, badgernation.online. If you want to subscribe, feedthebadger.com/subscribe. I think all the links are in the low bar handy. If you would like to select one of those options, those fundamentally wonderful options. And now let's go into this fundamentally wonderful strategy by the Democrats. Fundamentally sound.
Let's take a look at Olivia Giuliani. I'm just playing some of this. So here we go.
I'm the person that's in charge of bringing young men back to the Democratic Party, according to Donald Trump Jr., Trump War Room, libs of TikTok. And while none of that's actually true, every single time I saw one of y'all posting about me, I had one main thought at the top of my head. Y'all are a bunch of... Y'all are the ones.
What? Wait. I think
Oh.
you.
What?
Well, the thing is that what insult? You all are a bunch of what lovely coconuts? Like what did she say?
She called them pussies.
Oh,
Because because when you insult a man by comparing him to a woman, that's an insult. But
yeah,
also
that's
men and
how
women
that
are the
works.
same. Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, this is what feminists do though. Actually, this is just what people do. When they want to shame men, they just compare them to women. And
Mhm.
feminists think that that's sexist, but they also do it. So,
Yes, like AOC calling
the
Elon
girls are fighting.
Elon and Trump, the girls are fighting. Oh, so we are admitting that that women bring a particular tenor to political discourse now? Like, can we actually discuss how that might affect politics overall? Nah. We can just use that to shame men, but then the instant that it could blow back on women, we say respect women.
Yep. Well,
Okay.
okay. So I'll just go back a little bit.
Top of my head. Y'all are a bunch of. Y'all are the ones that made it about a woman and her identity and the way that she looks.
Wait.
Something that y'all
Okay,
consistently
I'm confused.
claim.
I'm instantly confused. Is she not the man whisperer?
I think that we got this a little bit out of context because we don't have the original video. So there was the video that leaked out of that people were using as the resource or the source that showed that she was going to be the official man whisperer for the Democratic Party. Okay. And then a bunch of commentators, right wing, whatever you want to call it, they had responses, and it probably had a lot to do with her appearance, the fact that she is a queer Latina woman of size, and all of these sort of feminist identity markers. And that's what they were saying was hilarious about it, is because this person is the embodiment of the problem. It's the embodiment of why men are leaving the Democrat Party, right? Or at least they have decided to step up and vote in their own interests and not the interests of this. And she is turning that into her victimhood card now, right? So she's saying, you are the ones that made this about being a woman, but they didn't accept that she is. So if you're going to have someone that's going to speak to men's interests, I think that men would expect that person to also be a man who have their same interests. It doesn't mean it couldn't be a woman, but the fact that it's a person who comes out and says, opens sentences with, as a queer Latinx woman of size, that is already that's 4 red flags right off the bat. And then and do you see what I'm saying? It's
yes,
if the concern is that men have concerns, they have issues that they need addressed, and the response is send in the overweight, the Latinx queer woman, to tell them that she gets what they're going through, they're going to say, no, you don't, especially because even by your own rules, by the left's rules, they can't understand what it means to be a man, like a heterosexual white man in this country, which is the group they're attacking. When these people put out all of these identity groups, they're basically just excluding. It's what they exclude that you have to pay attention to. And it's always men, especially white men, especially straight white men. So, but men is the starting point. So when men see that and they're saying, no, you're literally still doing the same shit you always do, and the fact that you are a queer Latina woman of size, and that's how you identify, that's actually you telling us that you don't get it still. And that's the reason, that's the logic behind why we find this laughable. And her response is, oh, so it's because I'm a woman, right? And you're like, yeah, you're still doing it. You're still doing it. So anyway.
Well, to layer my abstractions onto what you've said, essentially she's looking at this issue from a framework that basically makes men's point of view illegitimate. and that so she's essentially saying, well, my moral authority comes from being a Latinx queer of size.
Woman.
And that means I get to lecture to men what their experiences are and what their concerns can be. That's where that usually, and I'm pretty sure that's exactly where she's coming from. And that's the problem with the Democratic Party, is that they start from the premise that being a man is illegitimate, and having issues is even more so, because, the patriarchy. So and if she was a woman who started with, as someone who's thought deeply about the things that affect men, the men in my life, or the men that I've known, that might have been a much different reception. You see what I'm saying? And it wouldn't have mattered if it might matter if she's a woman, because can men not have their own spokesperson that is a man? But if she had come at this with a good faith belief that she has to listen to men rather than dictate to them, then I think it would be a different story, and people wouldn't have been, well, I mean, I'm sure there would have been some internet trolls who would call out all of the other stuff, and good grief. It's almost like they baited the hook with this woman, though. It's almost like the Democratic Party is like, how can we really piss men off? In particular, conservative men. How can we piss them off and trigger them into reactions that we can then frame as, yeah, this is why we don't need to listen to men, because men are mean, or they're meanie pants, they're meanies. Okay.
Yeah. All right, let's play some more. So that's what so she's calling those men pussies. Now, of course, she's directing it at specific men who have responded to her that are let's say high profile figures, like Donald Trump Jr., for example.
Mm-hmm.
So this is another thing that these people do, because they operate within.
Mm-hmm.
They hate hierarchy, but they're all about hierarchy. Their hierarchy is just a different hierarchy. And that is like, the guys at the top are my enemy, and they are representative of all guys. So that's why I point them out, but I'm only like drawn to respond to them because they're at the top. So I only see them, and those are my enemy. And they also reflect all men, or all of whatever the group I'm attacking is, which is usually men. So what I think she's hoping to do, maybe, is to gain favor with men who are not these men, so that those men will say, well, I'm not Donald Trump Jr. Oh, I'm not so-and-so. I'm not Charlie Kirk. And I don't think that's going to work anymore. I mean, it might on some, but I don't think it's going to work anymore. But let's listen.
The Democrats do. You don't actually give a fuck about young men. Instead, a lot of you want to talk about my weight. You're using pictures of me from about 65 pounds ago. So let me ask you this.
Here we go.
So again, you feel the need to make the case that this is about you now, not about men. Like, you're completely you're not talking about men at all. You're just using your victim cred to morally grandstand over everybody.
Yeah,
and this is why men don't want to listen to you.
Yeah, but right here, she's doing exactly what I'm sure a lot of men on some level were concerned about. Yes, there are men who are going to call you out for your size. If you're losing weight, you also know it's a problem, though. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
And you probably have enough money to afford the chemical cure to this, as it were.
I don't know about, I don't think that's a good idea, but yeah, sure.
Yeah, well, I mean, quote unquote chemical cure. But my point is that she is now saying there is the existence of these men who are not appreciative of who she is and how she's presenting herself, right? She doesn't represent an aspirational idea. I'm sorry, lady, you don't. Like, what about you is aspirational? Your politics? Well, you can't assume assume what you're doing. Like, you got to show that your politics is aspirational, but you got to represent something aspirational, some kind of excellence. Where's your excellence? Right? And I think that would appeal to men a lot more. And the other thing is that she's doing the thing, like you said, she's using her victimhood to delegitimate men's concerns. She's saying, well, these men over there are being mean to me, therefore y'all don't deserve damn or anything, right? You go to hell. You all are
or
bastards.
she'll weaponize that and say, well, look, if
Yeah.
you're a decent guy, I'll look out for you. That means you have to,
Yes.
condemn these guys, right?
Yes.
And that's what they do. But anyway,
Yeah, and I'm wondering if that was specifically the point. Choose
I don't think they're that
a
smart.
completely inappropriate candidate.
I honestly think these people are so certain that they're morally better than everybody else that there is no, like, anyone who would have a disagreement must have something wrong with them. I think this is just delusion. Like, they just believe I'm a liberal. That makes me a better person automatically. I have all the good ideas, and anyone who doesn't have my ideas has all the bad ideas. And that's been reinforced for generations. And that's what I'm telling you, that's what I think is going on, because I have been there myself. That's how I know. And so she thinks, well, I'm a liberal, so therefore I'm just a better person than everybody. And if you're not one of me, but basically, look, I'm the politics of all the good things. That's what they say. Like, yesterday I was doing a news show, and there was somebody in the vertical chat that was basically making the argument that we're just better people. Why? Because we believe all the good things. Well, what about the people who don't agree with you? Well, they believe the bad things. Obviously, they're the bad people. I know it sounds really, really low IQ, but that's what the paradigm is. It's that simple. They're just better people. You just have to accept that. And you can't argue with them because they're just better than you, fucking better than you. Just like Anna Kasparian said, right?
But how can you help someone when you immediately put them below you? Like, and
you're doing them a favor is what it is.
Oh, I see. And and I don't know from what particular persuasion that person was who said he's just better. But that isn't actually low IQ. It actually can take a lot of intelligence to engage in the solipsism necessary to always land that on I am better than you.
Well, I think that's true, but I think it does require a tremendous amount of, well, I would say that it's mid-wittery. I'll put it that way. It's like people who just like, I saw that, Jon Stewart told me these things, therefore I'm a better person. Like I follow the rules of what it means to be good. And I know what that is. And I've never questioned it. Therefore, I'm just better,
Am I saying that I'm better than you? I guess I'm going a little further than you are. Yeah, I'm fucking better than you. Okay? Much better than you. You are garbage.
How does someone come to that conclusion and be so certain of it, even if they are intelligent? Like, unless you just don't have the humility to say, maybe I'm wrong. But very few people can do that, because what it takes is tremendous courage to say, maybe I'm wrong. And even now, Anna Kasparian, who I just played a soundbite of, is starting, and she hasn't gotten there yet, but she's beginning to realize that she doesn't have it all figured out, and that things are not that simple, and that she's not always just a better person because she has, she checks this box and that box, that because she just cares about women in some abstract way, right? And but it's not easy for people to do. It's just not. You have to be willing to say, you know what, I'm kind of a piece of shit. I say that to myself all the time, kind of a piece of shit, and I'm working on it. And that is a good place to start from. It's actually like a deeper conversation that you have to be having with yourself before you start talking about what, like deciding what is right and wrong, and where that could lead you is going to be difficult. But a lot of these people, like this person, and my guess is that she looks like she's in her 20s. She was probably college educated and just like was told this, spoon-fed all of her moral virtues, and then went out into the world and said, I am a woman, therefore I'm morally better. I am queer, that makes me even more better morally. I am fat, that makes me even more better, but I'm getting a little too fat, so I'm going to lose some weight, but I'm still pretty fat, so I'm still basically better than you are. And that's like, and I'm brown too, right? And that is like the primary obstacle, is this kind of solipsistic self-assuredness. And then what follows is all of its rhetoric. Everything is based on how does it look? Like whatever I say, how does it make me look? Do I look smarter than that other person? Then that means I am, and that means I won the argument. And that's what you'll see all over the online. I've seen this because I look at what a lot of leftists are posting, and I look at their arguments, and I look at their reactions to things. And what I've noticed is they're not really concerned about having the facts on their side. They're concerned about whether or not what they're saying sounds viable enough that other people that are watching could agree with them. They're very, very concerned with optics. And I'll give you an example of that. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez said it herself. She said, it's more important that you be morally right than factually correct. That's it summed up, right? Do I sound like I got the moral high ground? And does my identity group, like me being a woman, me being like a minority, me being queer, whatever, does that support my argument? Of course it does, because I've created a hierarchy of identity. And once I've built my case and used that hierarchy, and I've also found ways to tear down your hierarchy, like pointing out that you're a male, or pointing out that you're white, or pointing out that you're straight, or pointing out that you're well off, or pointing out that you have a lot of clout or a lot of followers online, like your social media status is higher than mine, then I can use that to essentially make your arguments illegitimate purely based on that before I've even gotten into the discussion. And I see it everywhere, and I call it out. Like on X, I'm like, dude, you're concerned with optics, and that's it. You care about what people think about what you're saying, not whether or not what you're saying is true. And they will fight with me. Well, optics matter. It's like, no, the truth is the only thing that matters. But this is why we are in the position we are in. This is why we struggle so hard, because there are people who are very concerned with what looks true and what feels good than what is true and what is good. And so, I'm sorry, I went on a bit of a rant, but this woman is playing that game. And the thing is, that makes it nearly impossible to refute, because you could have the best arguments and she could just be like, but you're a fucking white male. And that'll be the end of your argument.
Yeah, we got somebody in special chat saying that, let's see, Sigularis says some ideas are simply better than others, saying otherwise as low IQ as you can get. He then goes into faith is the basis of conservative thought, literally never thinking you can be wrong. I'm not a conservative.
Oh my God.
Like, no offense.
Faith is not the basis of all thought for conservatives. You know what I realized? I just want to put this out there. I've been doing this for like 12 years. And what I realized, the thing that drives me the most, that I can't stand, is when people misrepresent other people's positions and arguments. And from the beginning, I thought that men's rights activists have been misrepresented. They've been lied about. And it really pissed me off. And that's why I got involved with this. But now I'm seeing it like everywhere, and it just annoys the shit out of me. Because you know why people do that? Because they think it's a really easy way for them to lift their own status up. Oh, well, conservatives, they do everything based on faith. So like when I go out into the world, and I don't even know what you even mean by that, but I don't think that conservative is a pejorative, even though I know that person in the audience is using it that way. And I think that's shitty as hell too, because it misrepresents people's beliefs. Okay. But to make that statement is ridiculous on its face, because that means that everybody who is conservative, whatever that means, which I'm sure just means anyone who doesn't agree with me on anything, because this is the way you guys work. That means that whenever they do anything in life, they're just drifting on the wind. Like they don't make choices. They just let Jesus take the wheel on everything. And that's just not true. It's just not. And like, I wish you guys would just stop lying about people, because I'm just kind of like bored of it now. I'm just bored of it. It's boring. Like, well, please try to, like, even if you're opposing somebody, try to understand where they're coming from. Just try to understand it. Stop doing that. It's not good for you, and it's not good for conversations. So
they put you in a box, and then they just ignore what you have to say. I've just had this experience recently with Natty on Twitter. I don't know if you've seen that. I did tag you in it.
I saw a little bit of it.
She's calling me a Theosophist. I don't even know. Is that how you pronounce the word? Which I don't know what that is. Theosophist. Like, I guess I know vaguely what it is, but she's put me in a box, and then she says, I want you to clarify your worldview because you're disingenuous. I'm like, well, so you know that my worldview is disingenuous, and yet you don't know what it is. That sounds disingenuous, friend. But it's like people put you in a box and then they just completely dismiss what you have to say. This is very simplistic thinking, but it's understandable. It's human. That's what people do. They if you say something that they have to take an effort to understand, they put you in a box and they say you're bad, therefore you're whatever you presented to them is bad. Less like this guy is singularist in the chat. What I am in a box, Brian is in a box, therefore he can dismiss what we're saying. But what I'm saying here simply is that this woman is not coming to this task of Democrats appealing to men in good faith. She's not coming to this thinking, oh, what can I learn about men's situation in order to better understand how to appeal to them or how to make them realize that my party actually does advocate for their interests. I don't want to go into whether it, like the weeds on this, but just looking at this situation, she comes to this from a position of lecturing to men who they are. And can you, secularist, in the special chat, conceive of the possibility that not just a woman, but a woman who identifies herself first and formally as a woman, as a Latinx, as a person of size, as queer, might not have the best understanding of men and who men are and what men want. And that maybe if she's being put into a position of being the czar of men, she might want to approach that with a mind open to learning.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
here's the thing. I'm
doing
think,
the claw
though,
thing. Sorry, guys.
That's okay. The thing I'm going to say about this is that I think that the problem that the left has with attracting men is that they only see men as a means to an end, which is power, and not actually addressing men's issues, which is what, like, remember Shoe on Head years, like, was it last year or something, made a video about, like, how the left can attract more men. And of course, Shu is a leftist, so she's trying to find a solution to this problem. And all she finds is videos of men saying, or of other leftists basically saying men have all the stuff. So the reason why I don't think there is a solution is because the only way they could change that is that they completely shattered their paradigm. Like, they'd have to get rid of the oppressor-oppressed narrative completely. Mm-hmm. And there's no way to do that, because it's fundamental. It's on the foundation of their worldview. So the only way they can do it is if they abandon that ability, that completely, because otherwise you're going to end up doing it like, I don't know, like along class lines. Well, guess what? That's still going to affect men at the end of the day. Or you can do it along some other lines. It's basically fundamentally immoral no matter how you set it up. So they can't do it without shattering everything. So what they're doing now is they're just trying to find ways to con men into supporting them, which is why they're concerned with optics. Like I said, this isn't about actually doing anything for men. Hell, it isn't even about actually doing anything for women, except that it's attractive to women because they've created a paradigm where men are the enemy. And a lot of women find that paradigm appealing because maybe they are struggling in their life and they need somebody to blame. And so feminists or leftists, they basically say, oh, it's patriarchy, it's capitalism, it's white supremacy, it's colonialism, it's whatever. But it's all rhetoric. It's all bullshit. Like, they're built on lies completely. And they are lies that are very, very comforting because they make you feel morally better than everybody else. And so they have a problem attracting men because men see through the lies. They know that at the end of the day, if they convince men to help them, to support their cause, it would only be in terms of their tactical advantage to get what they want. But they're not actually going to give men anything. And frankly, most men don't want anything except to be left alone to pursue whatever their goals are, which is, again, antithetical to leftists, because leftists are statists, and statists are people who need the state to do things for them, which I've been saying for like 10 fucking years now. And people don't seem to get it, but you will eventually. Just stick with me. But anyway, at the end of the day, this woman is trying to con men into joining the Democrat Party. And she has to do it along the lines of making the other side more of an enemy to men, or by asking men to be good men by supporting her cause as opposed to the bad men who support the other cause, right? It's like why they say patriarchy hurts men too. So anyway, let's play the rest of the video.
Okay, but before you continue, essentially what she's doing is she's trying to use shaming she's basically using shaming to get men to embrace something that's against their own interests.
Yeah.
And not even their own interests. Like you said, men generally want to be left alone to pursue building whatever it is that they want to do, or just be left alone to play games in their father's basement or whatever. Just want to be left alone. And they don't want that. They don't want to leave men alone because they want to use men to enact whatever agenda that they have. So they're going to shame men, and that's what they offer. And also the way that they approach everything is, like you said, it's very sophist. It's very about, let's present an emotion. Whereas in my experience, men are much more interested in causality, not just marinating in an emotion, but knowing that something is going to affect something else. And we can get a little bit more into that, but I think that the debate over immigration sort of demonstrates this very clearly. Not even a debate. On the left, they simply shame everybody who's against immigration as being a racist. So that's that they basically that's their tools, is to take away positive regard towards the people that they're targeting. Whereas on anybody else, I don't even want to say on the right, but anybody who disagrees with that, they're not necessarily disagreeing with it. I mean, maybe some of them may be disagreeing with it because they don't like the brown people or the people with funny accents. But, a lot of them, and this is where the debate comes in, are disagreeing with it from simple physical reality. If you have a lifeboat and you go past the capacity of the lifeboat, it sinks. Okay? That has nothing to do with racism. And in fact, in Canada, what we're finding is that immigrants from like 5-10 years ago are turning around and saying, what are you doing? Bringing in so many people, you're going to make the lifeboat sink. So it isn't even a matter of ethnicity. It isn't even a matter of race. It isn't even a matter of funny accent. It is simply this. At some point, you have to stop taking people on the lifeboat or it sinks. And they don't want to recognize that. So they just call every condemnation of this situation racism, because it's all about emotion. It's all about shaming people's identity and manipulating people through their identities. Okay, I'm done.
Yeah, optics. All right, let's keep going.
If I lose another 65 pounds, will y'all actually raise young men's wages? Will you actually increase funding to mental health services? Or are you just going to find another way to deflect from the...
So that's her way of injecting like what she would advocate for. Okay. Raise, no. She's saying, will y'all raise men's wages? The government doesn't do that. I mean, she wants the government to do that, but that's not really the government's job. What would help, and here's the thing that's funny about this. Illegal immigration is contributing to men's problems of like not being able to find work, much less work that pays decent, because why would you hire an American citizen when you have to pay them a minimum wage or something like that, when you could just hire an illegal and pay them next to nothing? And that's what happens, especially at the bigger companies. And these people, like her, I guarantee you, she's all about what's going on in these riots right now. She's totally fine with illegal immigration, which is what this is about. It's not even immigration. It's literally illegal immigration, like people who are not supposed to be here, who are here, and they're getting jobs. That's literally what this is about. And she can't square that circle because she cares about men. But if men say, well, can you do something about the illegal immigration because I'd like to be able to get a job, then she will say, no, you don't want that job. You wouldn't do that work, right? You should be working at, like, I don't know. And she probably doesn't want, like, would she, if it came down to it and there was like a job that was available that could go to a man or a woman, which one do you think she's going to advocate for? She's going to want to give it to the woman. This is the problem with feminism. This is the problem with leftism. It has a hierarchy. So men will not be served by it. And again, she's saying that like the government just has to create jobs and give them to men. Guess what? Government jobs, you know how they're paid for? By taxpayers. So men are paying for, like, that's not revenue.
Well, okay, let's look at this situation. Sorry, Brian, but let's look at this situation. Obama created a bill that was an infrastructure bill, and the jobs were going to go to men. Okay, so this is the classic labor, classic socialist kind of like union thing, right? And he was going to give a whole bunch of jobs to men as a stimulus package. Fair enough, right? It's probably the least offensive use of government funds. Feminists swanned in and destroyed it because that bill was discrimination against women. She talks about raising men's wages, but she'll continue to discriminate against men in employment.
Yes.
Okay, Void Cat is voiding.
Well, that's what I'm saying. This is like can't. All she can do is say stuff that sounds nice. It's all sentimentality. It's all like, well, are you all gonna give men jobs? What do you mean, like government jobs? Like, what if men want to open their own businesses? How are you gonna help them with that, or are you gonna show preference to women? Because I guarantee that if it comes down to it, women are gonna come first, anyways. You know?
Yeah. Well, if they create government jobs, immediately they'll say, "Well, men, vote for us." You know, we'll make sure you. And then if it is even a sector, I mean, because I don't think Obama said to himself, "Hey, why don't I create a whole bunch of jobs for men?" No, he just said, "Okay, infrastructure is something we could use." I think everybody can agree 15 years out that the infrastructure could have used a little bit of sprucing, you know, and then the feminists come in and say no, because that's going to go more to men because men take infrastructure jobs. So you're not, she says, oh, hey, yeah, this raising men's wages. No, you mean raising the minimum wage for everyone, right? This never ends up helping men.
Right.
And the other thing is that a lot of guys realize you raise the minimum wage and then everything becomes more expensive. So you raise the minimum wage from $7.50 to $15, right? On that $7.50, you could buy 2 Happy Meals. On that $15, you can now buy 3/4 of one. Do you understand that you haven't raised people's wage? You've halved it. It's just a number. What matters is what it can buy. And you have to think about it much more systematically, much more in terms of dynamics in a system to understand that what you're doing is ultimately harmful, except to the people who benefit from inflation. Guess who those people are, ladies? Big corporations, politicians, the people who have the first run at the money, that just gets printed off. Not printed off. It creates a loan. They get the money. They get to spend it first. They get the 2 Happy Meals at $7.50. You get to down the line pay $15 for one. That's how it works. This is all to benefit, and this is why. Like I ended up I don't think I changed in terms of my actual principles that much since I was like I laid them down in my teens. It's the left that has gone. Where did you went into becoming a mouthpiece to corporate government collusion, to apologia for corporations who get that first influx of government cash. Like, who are you? And who do you really advocate for? Okay.
All right, I'm going to play the rest of this.
The fact that y'all don't actually have any policy plan to help them. I can keep making this into some kind of big joke of, oh yeah, let's send her to every frat house in the country. I'm not afraid to go into frat houses or to go to college campuses or to talk to Republicans.
Well, yeah, you have nothing to fear because those guys aren't going to hit on you. But anyway, I'm sorry, I couldn't help myself.
Even if she was attractive, she'd have nothing to fear.
Yeah, but I don't think that's what she's saying.
because unlike y'all, I don't think that they're all shallow assholes. I
What?
think that
Wait,
they're
what?
actual people who can hold a conversation. But clearly, based off the way you talk about them and the way that you treat them, you think that they're dumb as shit. Well, I actually
Who's she
don't.
talking about
So
now?
I'm going to continue.
She's claiming that the right thinks that frat guys are dumb as shit.
Oh, because
something like that.
because the right thinks that they'll be open to the right's message, and the right's message is dumb as shit. Oh, this is a great premise for actual. I think these men that I'm going to appeal to will realize that they're believing stupid shit from stupid people.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think they're stupid, because they could potentially agree with me and do what I say, and that would make them smart. Great message there.
Well, at least men are the ball now. It's been a while.
Yeah, you're
to
right.
advocate
That
for
is a good thing.
Yeah.
young men
I
to get the policy agenda.
And again, this is really not. I think that I would hope that men could see through this and realize that that's all they are. Like, this is about. This is a political football for power. It's not
Mhm.
about actually doing anything for men. Like, let me ask people in the audience your thoughts. When governments create jobs, are they actually creating jobs, or is that just like another thing that we spend government money on?
To advocate for young men to get the policy agenda that they do deserve. And I'm going to continue to lose weight. And then maybe when I finally do drop that next 65 pounds, we can revisit this conversation
Gives a
and see
crap.
if you can actually stand on business. Because this time, none of you fucking did.
Got him, I guess. Oh no. Donald Trump Jr. on suicide watch. I'm not going to presume anything that she's claiming that they have said, because she's obviously only concerned with optics. So, but I don't know. I mean, this is really just about using men to win, because they realize that's what they have to do. And I've talked about how leftists are only concerned with winning. They don't have principles. They just have goals. That's it. You know, they say there are no bad tactics, only bad targets. That's their mantra. So
Yeah, well, I mean, also maybe they should take a leaf from the Republican playbook and actually put, if they want to use a woman, I don't know why can't they find a man? Like, honestly. But
I mean, I don't. The
women,
thing is
maybe-
that the other thing that's tricky about it too is that, like, men as a group generally they don't really need somebody to come and be their like avatar. They just want people to address the issues they care about, right? So
Yeah.
if you say, like, for example, the men who voted in the last election, none of them voted because they were voting in favor of men's interests. They weren't saying, I'm voting for a male policy because I'm a male and I care about that because I'm a man. None of them did. They were voting on things that everybody would benefit from. They were thinking about what is best for the country, what is best for their family, what is best for their community. They were like, oh yeah, I care about the economy. I care about immigration. I want to be able to afford the groceries. I want to be able to buy a house. I care about jobs coming over here, whatever it is, right? That's what they voted for. They didn't vote for things. There are no male pet issues. They don't exist. All the things that men care about are, like, in general, like the bigger things. Now it's not to say that men's issues don't exist, but I'm saying that most men don't vote or act in the world around those issues. That's not their identity. It's not, whatever a male issue is, I'm voting because I don't want to be falsely accused of rape or something. I mean, they might be interested if somebody said we're going to do something about due process or Title IX, but I don't think that that's what most men are thinking about. So
it's unfortunate, because the more that this happens, the more they're going to be screwed in those ways. And the more we lose those principles that appeal to men and men tend to uphold. Okay,
yeah.
let's move on to The View and see if we can get through that.
Okay. That's the conundrum of men, because it's like you have to advocate for people who don't generally advocate for themselves. So
Yes, you do. And sometimes maybe it does require a woman to do that. I apologize, but it seems like men have trouble advocating for themselves. I think partly because their sexual attractiveness is diametrically opposite to their ability to express vulnerability. And I get it. But on the other hand, these problems exist, and they don't fundamentally, when men have problems, it's not just men who have problems, it's all of society. And I rather like certain aspects of society, you know, like lighting, electricity, sewer. So I'd like to keep those. So I'm going to continue to advocate for the people who are mostly responsible for maintaining them and making sure that they're okay, you know. So this is it's bigger than just what makes people attractive. All right, let's do the View. Speaking of attractive people,
Oh, okay.
Since Trump scored big with young male voters last election, Democrats are spending $20 million to learn how to speak their language. You heard it, $20 million just to talk to boys. So is this a good idea or a waste of money?
I'm just going to pause it. That's not really that much money. How much have they spent on women?
Billions.
How many billions of dollars have been spent on women? Like when they spend 20 million, really? I mean, I think it's crazy that they think we'll just throw money at it and that'll fix the problem. Because I think what's happening is that people are just pocketing that money and they're going to put out a couple of TikTok videos and be like, well, I guess all men are just misogynists. I mean, we can't save them, while they laugh all the way to the bank.
We identify an issue and then we just make our board members rich.
But we're the grifters, Allison. I'm struggling to pay my rent and everything because I do this, but I'm the grifter, not the people walking away with 20 mil. But anyway.
What do you think?
Well, I think it's the wrong way to go about the problem, because the Democrats are asking, how do we get male voters? The disillusionment of men is, how do we care better about our men and boys? Like, it should be about how we solve the root problems that drove men and to feel like they had nowhere to go. You don't say, how do we?
Okay, so part of the problem is that the left and Democrats now are almost in diametric opposite to the thing that men need to feel. And I'm using feel because this is sort of like trying to bridge the language. Men need a meritocracy. This is the thing. Like I talk to commies about this, and ironically, no offense, guys, I always find commies easier to talk to than feminists. And I say to them, okay, you got great a great utopia you got there, but where's the meritocracy? Okay, because men want to engage in cooperative competition in order to gain social status, because that is an aspect of how they become attractive to the opposite sex. So where is the meritocracy for them to do that? And also, every society throughout history that's been effective and not slowly dying has had a meritocracy, a recognition of the achievements of men, you know, a way for people to work hard and gain some kind of status. Every effective system has had that in the past, right? Ours is capital. You know, I'm not sure what serfs did, but it was a very, very static system, not moving forward. I don't want to use the word progressive because it's tainted. So where's the meritocracy? And I always get them to pause. And I said that the meritocracy is the best way to incentivize productivity. Societies that don't have it tend to be stagnant or imploding. Societies that do tend to be expanding and tend to be improving the standard of living for everyone. And it's something that men want to buy into. Okay, it's why they do organized sports and why they are constantly inventing new organized sports, a way to recognize even like things like skateboarding and other kind of stuff. Like that is what they do. Women don't create organized sports. Have you noticed that? Like maybe quilting, I don't know, knitting, organized knitting. That would be
Some
amazing.
of them like volleyball.
Yeah.
I know I like volleyball.
Yeah, but that is a sport that women do. Did women create volleyball? No, men create these things. And that is the best way to incentivize productivity. And I would say to the commies, okay, so where is it? And then they go off and they'd be like, oh, you've got a point. And then they leave. And that's why I prefer talking to them. Not all of them. Some of them are crazy, but a lot more are not crazy relative to feminists. But regardless, Where's the meritocracy? And to get back to what she's saying, she's talking about how do we help men and boys? Well, one way you can do is by safeguarding the meritocracy, the meritocratic movement in our society, which you're not doing because you're all mouthpieces for too big to fail and gigantic government deficits. Like, do you see what I'm saying? It's like that is the exact opposite of relying on the meritocracy for productivity. So if we went into like economic stuff, we have Austrian economics, which is pure reliance on the marketplace or the meritocracy for productivity. Then we have Keynesian. When we have a market downturn, the
Keynesian.
government. Oh, you can't hear me?
No, Keynesian is how it's-
Keynesian.
Yeah.
Thank you. Keynesian. That where we have a downturn in the market, the government goes in and does some spending, maybe in infrastructure or something to try to spur the market back up. And now we have modern monetary theory, which almost everybody in the media and politics is behind, which is everything in the economy is directed by the government. So it is 100% against that meritocracy.
Pretty sure there's another word for that, but okay. Modern monetary theory. We'll go with that. We'll go with that.
What word did I use?
You said modern monetary theory.
Yes. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
they got to hide it, you know.
Yeah.
But everything is directed by the government. The economy exists only because the government exists. It's a top-down system. There is no movement in
Weird.
it. It's static. Yeah. It's basically just feudalism, modern feudalism. And these individuals are the ushers for this modern feudalism. And where is the meritocracy for men? It doesn't exist. So on a fundamental level, if you are promoting modern monetary theory in which the government controls everything in terms of the economy, you are basically destroying the meritocracy, the marketplace, where men compete and cooperate to create social value. And they're compelled to do it. And that thing is the engine of productivity throughout all of human history. Okay, I apologize for my little rant.
I'm going to play more.
We reverse produce it to get a vote. It's a waste of money, and it's a vapid approach at a real problem. Do what Governor Wes Moore is doing right now. He's directing his administration to implement targeted solutions to uplift men and boys. That's going after the statistics. And when he was here on our show, he said, the data speaks for itself. This isn't an opinion. So look at data and solve problems. Don't try to solve elections by reverse producing votes. Like, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
nothing.
Yeah, I can't wait for the feminists to come in and say, wait a minute, this is impacting women.
Yeah, that's the problem.
I guarantee it. He's going to fail because there are going to be groups that are going to show up and they'll be like, wait a minute, I don't know what you're doing here, but this isn't benefiting women enough. And if he's a Democrat, he's going to have to fall in line. So
that narrative, that narrative that they have, the feminist narrative that's basically woven into the fabric of the left, which also justifies government control and becomes almost the moral impetus towards wanting government control. I mean, like you said, eventually some feminist is going to pop out of the woodwork and start saying, hey, those infrastructure jobs are going to men. What's up with that? That's a really nice infrastructure bill you got there, Obama. Shame if some feminists were to shit all over it.
It would be a shame if I called it misogynistic.
Thing says authenticity, like spending $20 million to pay consultants and strategists and focus groups to tell you how to talk to a certain audience. It specifically says to study the syntax, language, and content that gains attention and virality in these male spaces. Like, what made Joe Rogan or Theo Vaughn or some of these manos?
Okay, what? It's like a lizard trying to understand a mammal.
Look, ultimately, all they're saying is they're not saying, let's look at what men's issues are and try to address them. All they're saying is we have to spend money to figure out how to get their vote. That's it.
We have to spend money to figure out how they speak.
Yeah. But the goal is to just get their vote. They don't care about your comfort. They don't care about your issues. They don't care about your problems. They don't care about how poor you are. They don't care what your mental health state is. They don't care that you don't know who your father is. They don't care that you've been accused of rape and got thrown in jail unjustly. They don't care about anything but your vote, because all that's about is power, which is why they can never solve the problem, because it would tear down their fundamental belief system. And that's the only way they can fix it, if they have to kill the belief system.
Yeah.
They won't do it, because that's why they're like, well, we need a Theo Von for the left. Theo Von was on the left. He probably still has a lot of liberal views, but because you have it in your head that you're just a better person because you have the right belief system, and anybody who doesn't line up with it is a bad person, then you assume that, oh, we just need our version of that guy, but because he's our version, he's going to be a better person. And then we'll get the vote, because that's all we want.
Well,
it's very simple. They just want the votes from men. They don't care about anything else.
There was a moment where they were saying, well, let's just talk about solutions. That woman was right. And that guy, like you said, good luck to him. Good luck to him. And that actually would be a decent kind of a left for men, would be actually extending compassion to men and saying, hey, they have issues, they're struggling. Let's institute government policies to improve that, because we rely on their work to exist. That's actually not a bad idea. Like, if you have to have government solutions to anything, fixing the infrastructure, helping boys in school, making sure men don't have something aspirational, can actually have families, these would be good things. Actually advocating for men's issues would be a good idea, because we would be fixing the system rather than letting it corrode further. But they're not interested in that, because so yes, eventually that governor is probably going to find some feminists popping up and saying, you're helping boys. You can't do that. You can't help boys.
Well, they probably want men to support the system like just enough without actually giving them anything.
Yeah,
without actually like trying to like deal with their issues.
But what I wanted to point out is now they're talking about the syntax. They're talking about how supposedly men speak so that they can use their message, right, and put it in men's words in order for men to accept it. So they're looking at it. So what tone can we use to open the man box? And it's like,
well, that's it.
It doesn't matter the tone. It matters the content.
Right. But they're trying to figure out, I think, the language of manipulating men, which is essentially the male version of whatever they used to manipulate women. So they're trying to figure out, like, well, we know how to talk to women because we have them on lock, especially the people who watch The View, which is mostly women who stay at home that are either on welfare or the stay-at-home moms, like in the suburbs or something. We already have them on lock because we know the language of women, so we use it. So again, it's not about caring about women's issues. It's about securing their vote, and they know how to do it because they got the syntax right. They're casting the correct spells on women with words. No, it's what it is. It's using words to control people.
That's why
what magic is.
Exactly.
And they're trying to figure out the enchantment that works on men, and that's what they're struggling with right now. And of course, the enchantment
that works on men is boobs.
Yeah, but like even then, I think that men, because remember when there's a couple of things where you can get glimpses of this. Okay, so the army put out some ads, and they were appealing to like women. They were feminine coded. They were feminine in their construction. It was the ad with the girl. It was an animated thing, and it was like a girl, and she was raised by two moms, and they were feminists. They were fighting for gay rights and so on. And the woman went on to become a soldier. And so it was like a military ad. And I don't think they thought that it was just like this really feel good sentimental thing, but it did not attract men at all because it wasn't aimed at them. But it was also helpful that we weren't we weren't at war at the time. But then Russia invaded Ukraine, and then October 7th happened, and all of a sudden we needed to go to war. So what did the military do? They put out an ad with a bunch of sweaty dudes, white dudes in military gear jumping out of helicopters and shit, because they were like, okay, wait. We need men now. We need to go to war. We need men. So we got to like advertise to men. Now that didn't work either because the men saw they saw what was going on already, that they were getting shit on by the military, by the government, by everything. And there if you look in the comments under that second ad, they were like, I'm not dying for this country. And that was all of the comments, right? So it didn't work because simply altering the language is not enough for men. They're not concerned with how you approach them. They're not concerned with sentiment. They're concerned with outcomes. They're concerned with physical things in the world, or at least that you get the fuck out of the way so they can do it themselves, because that's how they operate. Same thing with the Bud Light commercial. If you remember, we got the Bud Light thing with Dylan Mulvaney, and you know, he was like putting out ads, and Bud Light lost billions of dollars. So Bud Light tried to, like, you know, change course, and they start putting out ads that were aimed at men, but they were clearly written by a woman, because it was a bunch of dopey, overweight, you know, guys with beer bellies hanging around the grill, and men were like, this is insulting. You know, like, it was basically the Homer Simpson effect for an ad. And I think that, like, I guess Bud Light kind of recovered when they hired Shane Gillis to help them do advertising, because they like Shane Gillis because he's kind of like a man's man, you know. But the point is that they have a problem marketing to men because they just don't understand men, and they think that men are just women that have slightly different, you know, special moves. yeah, different spells, a different build, right? And it just doesn't work. And I think that ultimately what it reveals is that these people don't really have an interest in making anything better. It's just like different ways of controlling people. And they have lost control over the men.
Yes. So. Yeah, and that's their concern. Okay, let's watch a little bit more.
All right.
Your guys, huge, was there's a level of authenticity. I've listened to a lot of both of them. I don't agree with a lot of what they say, but there's an entertainment value, and this is just somebody shooting the you-know-what. It's not this, like, structured, hyper, I have to think about what I'm going to say, I have to consider it 20 different ways, focus group it, and test it. And I think that's where what Democrats are missing is there's, like, some sort of an authenticity.
They don't know what authenticity is. That's what they're missing. Yeah, because did you know that I'm just finding
it hilarious. These women are like, what is men? How men do? I've gotta observe them. Like,
yeah,
it's freaking hilarious. I'll keep going, Brian. Sorry.
Yeah, we need some David Attenborough like narration over it.
The female is confused.
The man.
The man.
In his natural environment.
It's the problem that they have. But I also would note, Joe Rogan was a Bernie bro. Democrats actually lost Joe Rogan. They had their own Joe Rogan and then alienated him with policies. And the most common things that I hear from men who came around to supporting Trump and maybe were open to other alternatives was they feel like they want to be able to provide for the future and build wealth. And they don't want to be ashamed to say that they want to provide and they want to have money. And then they do see these statistics of how men are falling behind, and they want to be able to highlight it and talk about it, but not be pushed back that you're saying, oh, well, you're excluding girls and women if you want to advance men. And finally, this idea that they feel like even when—
Stop it for a second. Yes, let's exclude. Can we please exclude men and girls, or women and girls, for a little bit? Can we consider that this might be a solution to things? Like, why do women and girls have to be everywhere and be everything? That's not working.
You know, if men are in their rightful place in a family, they don't need the government, at least not nearly as much. And that is a threat to these people. That's what it is. That's what I've been saying. A man who is allowed to be what he is, and his right to pursue his goals and realize his ambitions, is a threat to statists and feminists alike. And the reason is because they don't need them. And that's what they're worried about. That's why they're trying to figure out, how do we, like, because she's even saying that it looks like men want to be left alone to pursue their goals and, like, be, you know, in a home with children. Yes, men want families. Women are the ones that don't. Women are the ones that are out here trying to, like, you know, be in their
propagandized.
Yeah, they have, but I mean, they're living that out. But men, by and large, they just want peace. They just want to be, like, have their little piece of heaven and then live out their life. But these people can't let them have that because it's a threat to their power. So,
yep.
All right.
they're well-intentioned, they're like one misstatement away from getting canceled. Like, I think we need to have a culture that's more forgiving if people are trying their best, if they don't use the right terminology, if they don't use the right phrase. As long as their intention is there, this sort of like crazy cancel culture has really turned young people off.
We're talking about excluding women and girls. This is what women and girls do. Everything has to be right. Well, you are actually slowing down the process of communication by doing this.
Yep.
Okay, continue.
Uh-huh.
Look, I don't know that you learn how to talk to men by being in a conference center at a New York hotel, holed up with strategists and experts in suits. I think people need to go into the barrios and the neighborhoods and the barber shops and the places where real people are. And I think one of the problems that the Democrats have.
I just really occurred to me. Isn't it funny that these immensely wealthy women are basically sitting back in their chairs and saying, how do we talk to the serfs?
Yeah.
How do we communicate with the common rabble? How do we do that? Isn't it fascinating that women are in the position to do this? And I mean, there are things that are just flying over people's heads. That other woman said, well, how do we benefit men without excluding women and girls? Well, by definition, in order to benefit men, specifically, you have to exclude women and girls. So basically, you're saying, how do we do something while not doing it? Well, you don't do it. And then she also says, well, they don't want to have to be constantly concerned about the right word without asking herself, well, who's determining what's right speech there? By inference, it's women. These are people who are so inculcated to power. These women, and women in general, I would say, are so inculcated to power, they don't even notice when they're demonstrating it, when they're illustrating that they consider themselves, without even a conscious thought, they act like they are first-class citizens talking about lower-class citizens. I just wanted to point that out. I don't know if people noticed that.
Yeah.
Let's go to where do the peasants gather? Let's go there.
Yeah, no, that's totally that, because she does not live in the barrio. I guarantee you. I know she has an accent, but she does not live in the barrio.
Okay, so we got a super chat.
Several of them, but
we
did.
Lose it. Yeah,
a super
Alex
chat or a super chow? We got a super chat.
Alex gave us $5.
Yeah.
The Dems are antithetical to men thriving. They'll just keep losing men. Precisely. They are the party of a command economy, of taking out government debt and creating inflation, and then apparently trying to chase the inflation and make it worse by increasing the minimum wage, right? And that, like, inflation only benefits debt holders. It does not benefit it only benefits the people whose wealth comes from debt, which is the government and lots of corporations now. You know, it does not benefit us who have to actually produce something in order to get money. So the increase in the minimum wage, if it doesn't come with more buying power, it's useless. Increasing the minimum wage benefits the people who are benefited by inflation, which is debt holders, which is the parasites. You know, and it's so funny because, and I called out the Republicans on Fox for this a couple weeks back, who were talking about men in their moms' basements, and it's like the media is a shield for the fact that the government is squatting in all of our basements and writing checks that our asses have to cash and eating away at our spending power through inflation, and then saying, oh, well, we'll just increase minimum wage. No, fucker. Stop eating my spending power by inflating the dollar with constant debt. All right, I'm done. Okay, sorry.
All right. No,
it's pissing me off. It's just
one of the things is, like, they keep talking about how weak their brand is and how bad their team is. I never met a man, I never met a woman, I never met a human who wants to join a losing team. So maybe start projecting some, winning attitude, and
but Trump always talks about how everything was terrible, it's bad, and he keeps winning.
I don't think
not
Trump
about
should be
him,
the
but
gold
the other-
standard
but
of
the-
what
the
you're
other
looking
thing
to
is-
do right. I don't think he's in some ways an accident of times. and what we've
he
been
was a
brought to.
perfect storm.
He was a perfect storm, because what drove people to this manosphere was people were saying it's.
Wait a minute. What? No, Theo Vaughn and Joe Rogan. They didn't say manosphere at first, but I guess they're manosphere now.
Joe Rogan's the manosphere?
Yeah, according to these people, yes. Yes.
So what? Basically, the manosphere is just men who have any kind of platform whatsoever.
The manosphere is non-leftist men. Even formerly leftist men that are no longer leftist men are manosphere men now.
Well,
You don't get how this works, do you?
The left is like, no penises may apply. So every man with a podium is going to end up being a manosphere. Because look what happened to the Bernie bros. Like,
yeah.
Ultimately, it's just going to be women, all of their groups, and then the penis people. And the penis people can only really associate with the left if they bring something, some kind of tithing.
Manosphere is men they don't like.
Do they like any man, though? Provisionally, they do. When he's bringing them stuff.
I mean, if there are probably some men that like if they surrender themselves.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, it's just going to be women, and men are not going to be part of it. Men are not going to be part of this class women plus purse puppies. Men are just going to be able to come when they have something to offer, to tithe to the goddess. So that's okay. Let's just keep going.
All right. Hold on.
It's okay to be a man. You have value. I think the language around men with toxic masculinity and things were sometimes misunderstood to make men the problem.
Yeah, but
sometimes misunderstood. No. There are women here who have a clue, right? Or they have a sense that something is wrong, but they don't have the ovaries to take it far enough. No. We need to not care about excluding women and girls. We need to be able to do initiatives for men and boys and don't give a fuck about excluding women and girls, period. And then right here, what she's saying, oh, toxic masculinity, it's sometimes misunderstood. No, it's not misunderstood. Because every time I've asked anybody who uses the term, they can't identify anything positive about masculinity. That is saying masculinity is toxic. Nobody's misunderstanding it. Like, this is the other thing. These people will say, well, men need to be able, they want to have a place where they can speak freely without using the right term, which hurts those terms that hurt our feelings as women, that make us feel unsafe or called out. Men need spaces. And then they use a term that almost universally men are uncomfortable with. And they're like, oh, but it's occasionally misunderstood, so maybe we look. This and that the assumption there is that language needs to be policed for the comfort of women, but not for men. It's okay if we use shaming language towards men. It's okay if we make them feel like they're worthless. That's fine. Their emotions don't matter. And again, I don't think men actually really care that much about their emotions in this instance, right? And that's part of the reason why women have gotten away with this, because men aren't. They don't have like excessively long toes that always get stepped on. But men have actually drawn the line. Many men have actually drawn the line with toxic masculinity. They've said it's not helpful. Men are actually speaking up. Maybe you should say, you know what? Let's kick that out. That is not something we should be using. No, they're still going on with, it's sometimes misunderstood by men. They just misunderstand it. That's the problem.
Yep.
Okay. Maybe we can use the right spell and they'll understand it.
All right. I got 15 minutes. So I don't know if you want to get to something else or play more of this or what.
I feel like the clucking has started. I had a whole bunch of other stuff, but you had a lot to say, Brian.
Well, I mean, isn't that yes, I did. But
yes.
I think that that's the point of the show.
We might have to abandon the view for now and go move on to the next item on the list, which I sent through. Okay. All right, so this is where it's that's sort of where it began, guys. This is how it's going now. We're checking in.
All right, what am I looking at next?
The guy with the fucking smirk. Libs of TikTok. Yeah, that guy. This is where we are now. This is how it began. This is where we are now in the quest for the Democrats to appeal to men.
Right. Okay, here we go. Democrat activist. This is the introduction of Olivia Giuliani.
The reason why Republican messaging resonates with men is because men want bad things, right? It's like men want to have sex and like own women, right? Like they want to dominate everybody. And Republicans say, you get to do that. And then Democrats can't say that. So we just lost men. It's over, right? Like,
Okay,
what
stop.
are you talking about? Like a lot of times it will be men that are liberals who will like agree with that shit. I'm like, dude, what are you like?
What
is
are
going
you?
on?
Could you stop, Brian?
Yeah. I just want to make sure he's not taken out of context because it sounds like he's being sarcastic.
Is he though? Was he being
I don't
taken
know.
out of context? I don't think
I don't
so.
know. It just like this kind of starts in the middle. So when he says like, I think he's saying that the idea that men want to own women, he might be saying that sarcastically. That's what I'm wondering about. Like, I don't know.
Okay, let me see if I can find the greater context to this.
I'll play the
did
rest
have
of the clip if you want. I mean,
Yeah,
but if you look at his face, he sounds like he's being a bit like.
Okay, let's listen to the whole thing then.
All right,
let's
I'll play the whole
quietly
thing.
listen to the whole thing.
All right, well, quietly listen to the whole thing.
The reason why Republican messaging resonates with men is because men want bad things, right? It's like men want to have sex and like own women, right? Like they want to dominate everybody. And Republicans say, you get to do that. And then Democrats can't say that. So we just lost men. It's over, right? Like, what are you talking about? Like a lot of times it will be men that are liberals who will like agree with that shit. I'm like, dude, what are you like? What is going on? Like there's a lot of men that don't think that way, obviously. And it's just such a negative view to take on like half of the
I
human
see. Okay,
race.
fair enough.
Well, I also
See, so yeah, I think that he's being ridiculous. Although when he says a lot of men don't agree, and then he goes on to say liberal men, that is exactly what I'm talking about when I say
like
liberals believe that they are just the best people, and everybody else is just not.
Okay,
that's like there's like step one, we're better people. Everything else follows from that.
Yeah.
I also think it's just so
But
to the point of the context, so is he saying that liberals believe that conservatives or men want bad things and conservatives actually give them those bad things? It feels like there's, I don't know, I'd have to listen to this very carefully to extract what he's actually saying, but continue.
All right.
Well, I also think it's just so abundantly clear that the people who say these things don't actually spend time talking to young men. You know this because we know each other in real life, but I spend a lot of time on college campuses, and I spend a lot of time with
young men.
I love young men. I love frat guys, and in that I realized like even the ones that identify as conservative are almost always pro-choice. They're almost always pro-gay marriage. You'd be surprised at the number of them who supported Black Lives Matter. And so I feel like people just kind of look into this box.
Okay. That's because literally, like what she's describing is the fact that so many men are now excluded from the Democratic Party because the Democratic Party is becoming the party of single women and single women's interests and desires. Like, yeah, there's the thing is that it's like Joe Rogan used to be the left Joe Rogan, but because the left wants to control speech, because the left wants to control people's beliefs, because the left is a mouthpiece for the people who are pushing government debt, and it's not just entirely the left. I think a lot of Republicans are doing it too. But that kind of government corporate collusion, you're excluding more and more men, and some of them, yes, are going to be pro-choice because they don't want to be silenced or be called toxically masculine. And some of them are going to be gay, pro-gay, because they are gay. And remember, gay men are the straight men of gay people, right? You excluded them as well. This is so bizarre. Like the Democrats went through this whole process of excluding as many men as possible. And then this woman is like, I am going to go out among the men. Oh, did you know that these men have a variety of different opinions about things? Yes. because you excluded a variety of different men from your platform. Like, duh. And I don't think that it's necessarily, the thing is that she's calling these men conservative simply because they're not left. And many of them probably aren't conservative. Like, it's like, this is your problem. You keep throwing these groups of men out, like the Bernie bros. She went and she talked to a bunch of Bernie bros, and she discovered that even though now they're called alt-right, they don't actually have conservative opinions. They're part of the manosphere. So she went and she talked to them, and she's like, oh, they don't have conservative. Yes, because your party's excluding men, and men have varied opinions upon things. That's why it's insane that when we go over things like the American Psychology Association, which is asserting that masculine ideology. Have you heard of that term? It's that men have an ideology. Masculinity is an ideology, but men have diverse opinions about various things. I'm really scared mostly that they're pro BLM, because BLM is not about being pro black. It actually is really anti-black male.
Well, it depends on how she asked the question, because if if the question is, do you think that Black lives matter, then you'll probably find a lot of men say, yeah, sure. And then she'll say, then you support the organization, right? This is why I'm saying we're dealing with people who are using words as weapons, and we have to be very particular about how these things are approached. So when this woman says, oh, I know guys that are pro-choice and pro-gay marriage and pro-Black Lives Matter, first of all, I just have to take it as writ, because she's telling me that but I don't know those men personally. But then she's also, again, she's doing this thing where she is saying, here are the liberal beliefs, and they are the good beliefs, and these men follow those good beliefs, because a man who doesn't is not a good person, therefore not a liberal. Because if Joe Rogan had voted for Trump, does that mean he doesn't support, like, that he's no longer pro-choice? Or does he actually probably still believe whatever he believed? He just thinks that this guy is better for the country. Like, could that be possible, that it has nothing to do with maybe for men, maybe there are certain issues that are more important than other issues. Maybe, like, if do you think that it's more important that women can kill their unborn children, or that we close our border? I think I'm going to go with closing the border. Like, there's almost like there's a hierarchy of what's important, and men are acting in accordance with that. And she is saying, no, this makes you a bad person, because you're supposed to believe in all of these things equally, and they should be at the top of your list. And the last thing should be your interests, right? As a man, whatever that is, economic, economic, let's say, the ability to pursue my economic goals, my ability to buy a house, my ability to buy a car, my ability to get married to a woman, have kids, and like raise them, have my own ballerina farm, whatever. No, she doesn't agree with that. She doesn't agree with that.
Okay.
So,
let's do the next one. I shouldn't say that word. It was the one that
I know. Yeah, the 20 million.
I don't want to use the word.
All right, I'm bringing it up here. Hold on.
Yeah, let's look at this. Okay, so this is the about to today.
All right. When did this happen? Today?
This is where we're at now. This is where we're at with the Democrats appealing to men, guys.
So 6 days ago. This is like 6 days ago.
Okay, so let's...
Okay.
Let's read the top tweet there.
Doge AI. California Democrats turning $20 million on TikTok dances. I knew it. I said that. I didn't know, but I told you they were going to use it to do TikTok dances. Didn't I say that? I didn't know that they actually, like, literally were doing that. This is just money laundering. They're just grifting the money. They're going to make a few TikTok videos, which cost nothing to make, by the way. And they're going to say, well, that's where the money went, and men still aren't coming over. I guess they're just terrible people. We should shame them more. Yeah. So California Democrats
really
burning
that. What was it? And Gen Z boss and a mini, that thing.
Yeah.
They love that shit.
This is pathetic. This is a new level
New
of
level of
cringe.
cringe even for Democrats.
Oh man. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. This
I
is
mean,
exactly what
you know
men
what would
want.
you know what men would if you want to get men to vote, you know what you do? You basically like vow to end term limits, shrink the government more, lower taxes, close the fucking border, let them have their guns, let them start their own businesses, all the things that you are explicitly against, you would have to give them. And that's why you can never, ever attract them, at least not in a significant amount. And shaming them as like women haters, that's losing power like exponentially. So
Yeah, 100%. And like I just, if this is what they're spending their money on, huh? Because as we know, if you remember the Gen Z boss in a mini thing, men really love that. And I know that it created this gigantic kerfuffle on the internet in the war between the genders. And I think actually Sargon did a good kind of breakdown on why men were annoyed by it. But
yeah.
essentially, it's that, well, first of all, what my breakdown was this, okay, just to sort of get the sexes to understand each other, which is interesting because at the very least, is recognizing that men sort of think differently, they process things differently without saying that's wrong. Some of the women on The View, I'm pretty sure the clucking started and then everybody was forced to go back into the sisterhood and into the sisterhood's, you know, crates where they belong. And those women could no longer even express the most marginal disagreement with the sisterhood. I'm pretty sure that's where the clucking went because I could hear the clucking started. But regardless, they were recognizing that men might have their own way of processing the world, their own way of talking, their own agenda, perhaps, and that it was not illegitimate. But when I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, when they did that little dance in the workplace, what was aggravating to a lot of men is something that maybe women can understand. So if you go home, if you're a woman and you go home and the apartment, there's stuff on the floor, there's dishes in the sink, and you go over to your partner and you say, well, why didn't you clean up? And he looks around and he says, I don't see any mess. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And maybe he doesn't, because the dishes are in the sink where they're supposed to be. Maybe the clothing is where he wants to keep it for whatever purpose, right? And maybe it's not a mess to him, right? So you're infuriated because he doesn't see the world in the way that you do. When men were watching that, men have a tendency, and this is what we found in COVID, to hyper focus on their work. So when they're doing a task, they're just doing that task. And to see a bunch of people in a workplace fucking around like that in an extended manner was aggravating. But also to see these people fucking around in the workplace after having all kinds of benefits towards, being there in the first place for women is even more aggravating. So a lot of these guys are looking at this. They had to work hard to get into that position. They're screwing around in it. So it's almost exactly the same as just, men not understanding when there's a mess. These women were making a gigantic mess in the workplace and men were infuriated by it because it's just taking it not seriously. Something that's so important to them being taken not seriously. And I think that's part of it. But it's like now the Democrats are doing the same damn thing. And what they're doing is they're showing that the politicians don't take their job seriously. They're not there to work. They're there to have fun. Oh, let's all have fun in Congress. Let's all do our little dance. Let's all make it a joke. Let's just enjoy ourselves because no real work happens here. No real work and they're all doing it on, again, those loans, that gigantic debt bubble that everybody else, mostly men, have to pay for. So it's like watching somebody throw a party using your checkbook to underwrite it. Oh, you're having a lot of fun on my dime, are you? I'm sure that's really going to appeal to men. That's really going to make Democratic lawmakers and policymakers who are just basically writing themselves big checks on men's dime, that's really going to make them appeal more to men. I wanted to point that out. Because it's even worse, because those women, they had their own skincare company. They were wasting their own time, right? They're wasting their customers' time, but the customers were paying for them, whatever. They were a private company. These people are dancing on the male taxpayers' dime. They're demonstrating how little they respect the institution they're part of and how little they respect the work that they need to be doing. And they're doing it while cashing checks that male taxpayers have to cover. So I'm sure that's really going to be appreciated by men. Good grief. All right, that's just what I wanted to say about that.
All right.
But you're right. That's where the $20 million went. Brian, you're a prophet.
Yes, I am. I got a super chat from Great Indoors for $5, and he says, just a general remark, women hold up half the glass ceiling. All right.
Okay. All right. So that's about as much as I can get out of my bag of nuts. No, I'm not going to say it the other way. I hope you've enjoyed the things that I've gathered as a squirrel and our commentary on it. If at any point after the show is over, you want to comment on anything that we said, you can do so at feedthebadger.com/justthetip. If you want to support the show, you can do so at feedthebadger.com/support. If you just want to hang out with us and maybe help us find new content, you can do so at badgernation.online. And if you want to subscribe, feedthebadger.com/subscribe. Everything is in the low bar as well. Choose your poison. Hope to see you in the Discord or as a subscriber or your comment, however you want to do that. And I'm going to hand it back to Brian.
Okay, well, if you guys like this video, please hit like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, hit the bell for notifications, leave us a comment, let us know what you guys think about what we discussed on the show today. And please, please, please share this video because sharing is caring. Thank you guys so much for coming on today's episode of Maintaining Frame, and we will talk to you guys in the next one.
Men's rights activists are machines, dude. Okay? They are literal machines. They are talking point machines. They are impossible to fucking deal with, especially if you have like a couple dudes who have good memory on top of that too. Holy shit, you're fucked.